Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. My name is Tilly. Now today is going to be a little bit of a different style video. I'm kind of making this just for me so that I have something that I can look back upon a little bit later to see how far I've come. But today I'm going to be sharing with you the story of my first surgery on my left hip and how it ended up failing. I'm probably going to do this video in parts just so that I don't bore everybody to death, but today we're going to kick it off. Dive right into surgery number one. All of this started in 2017. I had just finished high school. I was getting into the gym because I was just about to start my bachelor's of exercise and sports science. And one day when I was at the gym, I was doing some hanging knee raises. So just hanging from the bar, lifting your knees up and down. All of a sudden, I felt like a horrible feeling. I felt shooting pain going up through my leg. I couldn't walk properly. I couldn't move. It was excruciating. Like most of us, I'm guessing we would have had a lot of injuries throughout our life, so it didn't really faze me as much because I was just like, okay, this fucking sucks, but it will eventually heal. So not knowing what was wrong, I just kept going about my life. I kept working. At the time, I was coaching group classes, I think at F45 or Orange Theory or something. And it just kind of didn't get better. I tried skipping. I tried doing other types of exercise other than lifting, other than running, to try and see if maybe something else would feel better. So I originally hurt myself in about September 2017. So now we're in January when I finally have that day where I snap. Cannot move. I cannot bend my leg past 90 degrees. So my knee just gets like stuck. I'm in that position. It feels like a really, really sharp nerve pain. This is how I would describe the feeling. It's just like it sends a jolt through your body and it is horrible. I can't stand, I can't be on my feet for more than a couple hours, and it was horrible. I remember calling Cal up one day and crying on the phone to him being like, this is just excruciating pain. So Cal finally gave me the push to go see someone, and I reckon that would have been about January 2018. I saw a bunch of different physios up until that point and nobody really could figure out what was wrong. They were just saying like, oh, my glutes are weak, or I've got flat feet, you know, the usual suspects. And finally I saw someone who said, oh, this is a hip impingement. And I was like, what? What's a hip impingement? So hip impingement is like a trauma in your hip from repetitive hip flexion. So it can either damage the cartilage of the socket, so the labrum, which is like the little bit of cartilage that goes all around the acetabulum, which is the hip socket. So this person that I went to see figured that maybe it would be a hip impingement. He was like, there's pretty telltale signs when you can't bend your hip at all without pain. He was finally like, honestly, with the amount of pain that you're in, I think that you should go see some surgeons. Let's get some MRIs done. Let's do some x-rays. Let's see if everything looks okay in the actual joint itself. So we went to go see some surgeons. Now at this point, we're living in Hong Kong. It wouldn't really make sense for us to go elsewhere because all my family's in Hong Kong. There's no point traveling and being away from all our support systems, everything like that. So we looked for surgeons in Hong Kong. The first surgeon I saw said that there was nothing wrong. He couldn't see anything at all in my x-ray. He couldn't see anything at all in my MRIs. He said that I should just continue physio. He made me test for rheumatoid arthritis, for other autoimmune diseases, but nothing. Everything was coming back negative and he could not help me at all. He said he saw no signs of a hip impingement and my mom was there with me. And I remember crying, just being like, what do you mean there's nothing wrong? Like, I'm in so much pain. In the actual room, when the surgeon is testing you, he kind of moves your hip around into the range of motion that's painful. And I remember just sobbing when it hit that zone of like that flexion, because it was just excruciatingly painful. So he saw that, he saw how much pain I was in, and still he was like, there's nothing I can do for you, so bye. So we went to go see a second surgeon. Now the second surgeon was interesting. Straight away when I came into the room, he looked at how I was sitting and he was like, the way you're sitting leaning on one side with like your leg out to the side is usually pretty typical of people with hip impingements, because they're trying to like let their leg breathe, because you can't go into that flexion, right? You can't bend that leg. So you kind of stretch out to the side. He was like, that's really typical. He presented himself as the world expert in this field. He said that the way he does the surgeries are revolutionary. He didn't use that word, but he was kind of like getting us to buy into his stuff. He seemed very confident that he could do something to help. He also saw nothing on the MRI or the x-ray that was of concern to him. However, he said that the gold standard for treating patients is when you have a patient here in front of you and they are in pain, then you have to go in and surgically look at them. We were concerned at this point that only one out of the two surgeons had seen something. So even though that was our second opinion already, we went to go see a third surgeon in Hong Kong just so we could really touch all bases and make sure that whatever would be happening correctly. The last surgeon, again, bringing back that trauma, has said that there was nothing wrong with me. He saw nothing on the x-ray, he saw nothing on the MRI. At this point, I think we're now in like May or June, so I'd been doing physio for 9 months or something like that, 8 months, and nothing had changed. And I am actually not one of those people who say I'll do physio and that never does it. I was in so much pain, I was trying everything. So naturally, I can't work, I can't gym, I can't exercise at this point without being in pain. So I was like, well, this guy again has just told me there's nothing wrong, and I know that there's something wrong. Worse than this, he couldn't provide any solutions. And this is the part that I think frustrated me the most with the first and the third surgeon. They were just like, okay, that's it. They didn't recommend any particular physios. They didn't recommend any other style of treatment, any other pain management solutions. They just sent me off on their way because they were like, well, I don't know what to do. And as a patient with chronic pain, that was severely, severely disappointing and painful to hear. And so after seeing the 3 surgeons, we obviously decided that I would go and get surgery from the second surgeon. And this is because he seemed confident, he could tell me what was wrong, and he actually acknowledged that I was in pain. So we went to Bob, we'll call him, and we booked in. We had to get pre-approval from the insurance companies, and in hindsight, this next part will make you cringe a little bit, but the insurance companies wrote back to the surgeon and they were like, we're very confused with the surgery that you're asking to perform on this person. And the surgeon messaged back and he was like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I am the leading expert in this. I'm not going to have my work challenged. And he made sure that we got pre-approval. So long story short, I had a labrum repair. So that means this surgeon fixed the cartilage that was around my hip socket. He like sewed the labrum back on. He also gave me a femoroplasty. So he shaved off like the actual head of my leg bone. And then he also shaved the hip socket. So he made it a little bit more room. And that's just because in a hip impingement, normally you've got your hip bones, right? But hip impingement, sometimes there's not enough space. So they kind of bang into each other there, and that can be the cause of some of the arthritis or some of the damage in the joint. So he shaved both the head of my leg bone and also the hip socket, so that there was a bit more space. Kind of a little side note, I remember being genuinely terrified. I was having severe panic attacks at this point, and so when we were in the hospital in preparation for my surgery, the anesthesiologist came in to try and talk to us. And in Hong Kong, doctors aren't really known for their bedside manner. So I was like, is it okay if my mother comes with me into the actual operating room just to help me be put under, because I will feel very uncomfortable and I feel like I'm not going to be able to sit still or breathe. And then he was like, oh, we don't usually let parents in the room after the child is above the age of 4. And I was like, bro, just like no compassion. It was just a nightmare. When I woke up from the surgery, everything was okay. As far as I was aware, the surgery went well. The surgeon came into the room the next morning and he was like, oh, well, we're never gonna squat again. We're never gonna lift again. We probably won't play sport again, but that's all right. And I was like, you know exactly what I want to do with my life. You know that I'm pursuing exercise science as a career. You know that I'm incredibly sporty and athletic, to my own horn. But I was like, how fucking dare you say this to me after surgery where I've just put my trust in your hand. I was so exhausted from the whole process. It doesn't really sink in properly until later. I ended up spending a week in the hospital at this point, and then I spent about 8 weeks on crutches afterwards. We actually had a holiday booked for afterwards, and I ended up being wheeled around in a wheelchair there, and I was on crutches for the holiday as well. I remember my sister and Callum having a great time. I was just stuck, just very slow for everything. It was pretty brutal recovery. Now I'm gonna stop it there because I'm gonna keep this nice and short. I'm gonna show you a few of the pictures there, but I'm gonna tell you all about my next 2 operations in the next video. Surprise, surprise, this first one did not work. And yep, let me tell you all about the shit that this surgeon f***ed up in that next video. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope this was kind of entertaining. I'm just kind of setting this up for me, to be honest. I don't really know if any of you are gonna watch it. I just wanna record just so I can see like the kind of shit that I've been through. When I'm old, I've got something to look back on, something to reflect with. Check out that next video. So make sure to like and subscribe, comment down below if you've been through anything like this. Yeah. Bye.